Welcome back to another exciting episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo. I'm joined by Chris, the technician, Aceto today, and Lee Priest. And it is March 15th, 2021. And I am 2 days away from my thyroid being removed. Chris, I value my thyroid as like my greatest asset because I've always been known to having a great metabolism. So I had this terrible feeling that like my metabolism is going to get screwed up from going on thyroid replacement. Well, probably won't. But
you can just use Bob Gruskin's Thyrolar.
What was that? That
was T4 and T3 mixed, and it was it was like people used to eat them like gumdrops.
Oh, really? That's funny. Probably no one even used thyroid before Bob, brought it to the marketplace.
Oh, it was frightening to even hear like someone, right? Like what?
Yeah.
And he'd be like, well, you got your foot fiddling around with tests. That's another hormone.
You know what the problem is? Flex Mag, and this is what scared me about thyroid hormone. It actually scared me about growth hormone too originally. Flex Magazine would put these horrifying stories out, if you remember, about all the horrors of like GH and thyroid, how it was going to eat up muscle and cause arrhythmias. I don't know why they did this. They were completely the opposite of like transparency. They were like, they would go the other direction to really discourage GH and thyroid use. And they would always put out these scare tactics. And it worked because I was like, I was 17, 18. I was like, oh, these people are crazy using this stuff, right?
They didn't want people to get big.
What about some of the? I remember when I was dating Laurie Donnelly, there was a few fitness girls back in the day who were using too much thyroid, and when they come off them, I remember a famous one, Alfie Newman, when she used to come off the diets, and boom, she was like Lee Priest off season. You
know what? I always believed, and Lee, you probably know the inside track on those girls better than I do. I always believed that was the excuse people made, like, because they would, because I mean, off season you got fat, right? I mean, it wasn't that you just got fat from eating a lot of shitty food. It wasn't that your thyroid shut down after the show. You think she just got fat because she just ate like a pig, after a show?
I don't know. They said that she would her thyroid had shut down because she used a lot, and some of those girls do. But I'm sure it is the case, because I never had an excuse because I like dairy products. Whenever I had dairy products, my face and everything would just blow up from all the fluid and stuff. So
you get very congested from that stuff. From dairy.
So I always liked that, just eating. But I'm sure they do. It's like, sometimes they use, when they go to the gym, it's that time of the month. That's why they're holding fluid. So they got so many excuses they can use more than us, Dave.
Look, you know what? I work with a lot of women. And I'm telling you, a lot of women will blow up after a show because they eat like pigs. The girls that I work with that are very, very regimented and they want like a post-show diet, and I know that they're just like they'll stick to it. Those people never gain a lot of weight. They get a little bit bigger, obviously, maybe hold a little water because their estrogen kicks back in. But usually, people who eat a lot of junk get fat, and the ones that don't stay better.
And they can eat a lot, because I remember after a couple of Olympias, Adela could out eat me. She would eat a lot of food when she was finished contests. It's like she can put it away. For a small girl, you'd be like, "Where's all that food going?" So,
Lee, what was your typical contest weight?
Normally, roughly around 2.6, 2.8. Anywhere from, I'd say 2.6 to 2.10. The heaviest was the Night of Champions in 2000. I was 2.18, but generally I was around anywhere from 2.6 to 2.10 mark.
Look at this picture he put up. Look, Chris, you'll love this picture.
Which show was that?
I think it was one of the Ironmans in 2000-ish.
Mayan. So what was your weight like off season coming down to, let's say, 206?
About 285.
That was a lot of weight.
Just fluid.
No, what was it? What was a typical like off season?
Normally, typical is 270 to 285.
Wow,
insane, right?
And you dropped that in how long? To
12 weeks. I always diet for 16, but I'd drop it in 12. But as soon as I cleaned up my diet, because I'd be one extreme to the other, off season I might have chicken and rice and steak or vegetables, but in between that I'd have Chinese, McDonald's, ice cream, and then it's time to have a proper meal. I'd have steak and rice, but then I'd go out and have chocolate bars, bag of chips. So pretty much when it came time to diet, I just cut out all that crap food in between the good meals. And I'd say within the first 2 to 3 weeks, I'd drop about 15 pounds or close to 20 just from water. Just go.
And what about, so why were you so heavy in 2000 as opposed to?
I think I just ate a lot more. Like I did a bit more cardio and I was eating more, and I did that before the show, because you know you always say you're going to do it. You always do that. Oh, you know, after the show when you eat, you fill out and you look so great and look so good. So I remember I was pretty depleted the day I got to New York, and that was at the Beacon Theatre, and they had that, you know, that little Beacon Cafe, is it, just right next door to the hotel? I was on the corner there, that diner. Yeah. So I was there 2 days early and like, you know what, fuck this. I'm not going to drink, but for like a day and a half, I'm just going to eat. So I was in there eating spaghetti bolognese. I was eating muffins, and people are like, aren't you competing? I'm like, yeah, but I just want to see how this works. So for the whole night before the show, I was getting up every hour, looking in the mirror. I'm laying in bed. I can still feel them. I'm thinking, oh, fuck, Lee, you've probably just blown this diet in a matter of 24 hours. But I was probably the best I've ever looked, and I was the fullest. I got the best pump. I felt great. And yes, I figured, because I always said you always do it after a show. I should do it before, but mentally sometimes it's hard just to cram all that food in. So normally some people carb up, but I didn't carb up. I just ate whatever I wanted. It was like the show was over. So.
No, but I asked because a lot of people are critical of when people get too heavy, and I sometimes I think it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I never.
What heavy you got Jay up to when you were working with him?
I mean, he was different because he never got fat or sloppy. But some people respond well, like Lee. You know what I mean? When they eat everything in the off season, they can put on solid weight. Yeah, they get really fat and sloppy looking, but even if they have to suffer like crazy for the diet, they still get in great condition where the same person, like if, getting in, they may go off season and stay in quote, much better shape, but when they start dieting, nothing happens. And when they try to diet, pull everything off, nothing still happens.
Well, let me ask you this question, Lee, because this is relevant. When you got ready for the Universe, the last show, you were had, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you stayed very lean, or you.
Yeah, I was lean. I was probably lean. I was lean for like a year leading up to that because I was sort of doing
and then you had the best conditioning you had the best conditioning of your life. So when you look back, do you think maybe if you would have stayed leaner in the off season, you probably would have had the crazy glutes and all that other stuff that people sometimes complain about?
Because I think back then I was in my mid-20s. The Universe, I was 42, so I think just muscle maturity and everything else, I had a different look. But the heavy, I always found, because if I was 280 odd or 270, when it come time to diet, people always said, don't you find that hard? But I found it easy because it's very motivating. You do lots of cardio, you push yourself hard. I think one year, because I never aimed for a certain weight in the off season. Say I did like the Ironman, the Arnold, and the San Francisco, you'd have all that time after those shows to wait for the Olympia. So I just eat whatever I wanted in that time frame. But if I did a show in between, so between that show and the Olympia, I might have only got the 250 odd. And I actually found it harder to diet from a lighter weight because in my mind I'm thinking, if I'm 280, I got to bust my ass. If I start my diet at 250, I'm like, well, I'm already 30 pounds down. I don't have to go as hard in the beginning. So I always found it easier to diet when I was heavier. And I'd always go 16 weeks, 12 weeks, I was pretty much ready. And then I'd do my photo shoots leading up to the contest. Because once the contest was over, we all like to stay in shape, but we know how that goes after a week or two. You're trying to hold on to those little veins, the fullness. Then once you start smoothing out, you're like, screw it. Off to Jerry's Deli. Right. Now, I was at Jerry's Deli just going through that menu one after the other.
That was great. I love Jerry's Deli.
Yeah, it was fun. But I always get ready early. That way I could play around with it too. You could always eat a bit more and see how you look. Because so many guys I knew would sometimes try and diet too quick. And if they're not ready in time, then they're pulling calories out and get flat and do this other stuff. But I'd always prefer to get ready early and then just cruise into the show.
I think
off season too, I never used a lot of gear off season. It was very rarely I do an off season cycle, so I just preferred to get as heavy as I could to lift the heavy weights and stuff like that. And Mike Matarazzo used to Matarazzo used to look at me and call me the tick. He goes, "You're like a fucking tick. You just swell up." It's like every time he see me, he'd laugh. He goes, "You're gonna pop like a tick."
Dave's got the comments off. Everyone would have said "lying bastard" when he said he didn't use any anabolics.
I'm not filming it live. That's why I didn't want to use bothered. So
then they're at home saying "lying bastard."
Yeah.
But the thing was, occasionally I would do an off-season thing, but only be like Decker and Dianabol or something basic. But majority of the time, once I come off, and that was it. I just waited for the next show, and I think that's too why when I did go on site, because I never used a lot, I kept it really small and moderate because being off it for so many months that when I bring it back in with the clean diet and the bit of gear, I just responded really good, really quick to it. So rather than these people that say they come off, but yet they just lower the dosage, what is it, blasting and cruising, they call it now. So
that's called the bridge, I think, right?
Oh, the bra. I'm still trying to get over your personal best, but now I said to someone the other day, I was joking, I said, "That's a PB." They go, "Lee, it's not a PB anymore. It's a PR. It's a personal record." I'm like, when the fuck did that change? Now it's not a PB anymore.
Personal best. Remember that movie, Personal Best, with Marielle Hemingway?
Jesus, that's going back, Dave.
Yeah. That was she was like a 19 in that movie. And I remember that movie. It was funny because I was at the track and field at the time. And ironically, our good friend David Paul, may he rest in peace, he actually was her personal photographer. I don't know if you guys knew this, like recently, like within the last 5 years. Like he took all these pictures of her, for her, I don't know, for posterity or whatever. And she asked him what he wanted for all the work he was doing for her. And I guess his dog had, one of remember he had those big dogs.
Yeah.
I guess one of them had died or something like that. And so he really wanted another one. So she hit what he wanted. What she paid him was, she flew him to North Carolina to get this dog, and he picked up this dog. I don't know if he picked it up and drove it back or so, I guess to Rhode Island or something like that, which is where he was living at the time. But she paid for the dog. That was his payment for the whole.
But that dog was beautiful. The other one he had, the last
Cowboy.
Did they ever find out how he did pass away?
No, but there's a lot of speculation, believe it or not, that that he was dating or he was hanging out with some girl who was connected to Wise Guys or something like that. And I don't know. Then there was a robbery or something like that. That he was he was driving along with the guy who robbed some store. I don't even know. There was a lot of little shady backstories.
Last I spoke to him, like I said, he was in good spirits and he seemed healthy, and that when we'd chat back and forth about some of the photos and that he sent me again to use for different projects and stuff. It would have only been 2 weeks or so before he passed away that I'd spoke to him, and he seemed really good, because then I'd always talk to him about that place he refurbished, that old church, whatever, how beautiful it was. And
beautiful, yeah.
And that sort of thing. And then we're talking about some of the old photos we took at the old fort up in the mountains once and stuff like that. Taking photos with Dave was always an adventure. You'd either almost get arrested or get kicked out of somewhere. So I remember the time he had that idea for the Max Muscle magazine. He's like, "We're going to dress you up as a priest, Lee, because your last name's Priest. This is fantastic." You get that stupid big grin on his face and smile. He took me down to this big Catholic church in LA. I'm dressed as a priest. He's like, "Now stand on the steps there. This would be great." I'm standing on the steps.
Yeah.
Next thing, people are coming up to me, talking to me like I'm the bloody priest. I'm like,
"Oh my God."
I'm just doing a photo shoot. I was like, "Now let's go inside. Go inside. This would be great." So we go inside this church, and there's the big walkway, the big stained windows. I want you right down there under the crucifix. Roll the sleeves up on the priest uniform and stand there like this under the cross. And these people are down the front praying, and they look at me standing there. They're like, "What?" They're like, "What's this priest doing standing in the church?" And Dave's like, "This is fantastic shots." I'm like, "Oh, now."
Yeah, he would see what he can get away with. He would push the envelope a lot too,
Yeah, they were funny.
It's great to have that kind of creativity. He thought outside the box so much so that I love talking to him, because he had such great ideas. He was the greatest. If he would have worked for one of these firms that where all he had to do was come up with ideas, and then they would take his ideas and make his ideas. He could have made millions, if he could have worked. The problem is he couldn't work for anyone else because he was difficult.
And he always had that old box camera too, like it looked like an old Polaroid thing that he would take it with first and develop it in the solution.
Yeah.
And then he'd peel it off to have a look at it first.
The Polaroid, to see the what they wanted to shoot. Then he went to digital. The funny thing is that, I don't know, Chris, I don't even know if you knew this. Blackman wanted to hire him to do guerrilla coverage of the Olympia one year. The year he insulted David Pecker and they took away our press passes for muscular development. So I said, why don't you hire, David and Paul will just, he'll shoot pictures, but he'll turn it into video. And I got him all excited. So David needed, I think he had his laptop stolen or something like that. Something happened to his Mac laptop that he edited all this video on. So he needed a laptop to do all this editing. So I asked Blackman, I said, Steve, you're going to pay him this much money anyway. He'll take if you buy him a new laptop, he'll take that in lieu of payment. David loved to barter stuff. And I figured it would solve two problems because David needed a laptop. He was complaining to me he didn't have a laptop. He couldn't edit his video. Blackman needed the photos done. So I basically brokered this whole deal. So David gets they buy him the laptop. David does the Olympia, and it was great. We had a great time. Not a week later, he was out shooting someone. I don't even know who he was shooting. And he ran over the laptop by accident with his car. Yeah, he had like that car. He backed over the laptop. I said, dude, you didn't even make it a freaking week with that laptop. Everything you did, all the good work, is down the toilet now. That's the way it was. He just, Well,
he reminded me of that. He reminded me of that photographer. I did a photo shoot with him for Sol Beer, that SOL Beer for the billboards in Mexico. I did it with that supermodel. I forget her name. She was in that movie Dracula and that. What was his name? He was a very famous photographer. He died of AIDS, actually, but he used to shoot all the stars. Okay. He gave me his book. I forget his name now. It'll come to me when I'm not thinking.
And he shot you, the guy?
Yeah. Because actually the day I had to go back to Australia, because with the green card thing, I had to leave and come back. So I had to leave on this certain date. He actually wanted to use me and Cindy Crawford for the cover of Rolling Stones magazine down at Muscle Beach. Yeah, so I couldn't do it. Yeah, but I did the Sol Beer ad with my good friend Sean Ray down at the Malibu Beach.
Sol B? Is that true?
Sol Beer, the beer to drink.
Yeah.
That beer. Yeah. I've got the photo somewhere of Sean and I in the ocean together, frolicking in the water. I'll have to find them. It was freezing cold, and we had this really tall supermodel, and there's Sean and I. And that, it's for like billboards in Mexico.
I think Cindy Crawford and you on Rolling Stone would have been a little bit better than you and Sean frolicking. Probably for a beer commercial. Career a lot more,
Yeah. Yeah, but I'll have to. I can't remember his name offhand now. Is it? You know his name as soon as you hear
Not
it.
Andy Warhol, is it?
No, it's the name. Herb Ritz. Yeah, Herb Ritz. Yeah.
Oh, how'd you know that, Chris?
Because he was friends with Ralph DeHaan.
Oh, okay.
Bodybuilding photographer. And everyone knew Herb. It was either Herb Ritz or Scavullo. Those are the two.
Yeah.
Super photographers.
Yeah, I got one of his books around somewhere. He signed it. Great working with you, Lee. And that's all the photos of all the stars that he took, like Gary Oldman and all those type of things. Yeah, it's a really nice.
How do you spell his name?
Coffee.
Ritts. Everyone ripped off his photography. Like he'd do these like iconic pictures, and like everyone would just do the same thing with a different person.
Mm-hmm.
There would be like a guy with a sledgehammer, like good physique.
Right.
People would like.
So he kind of like he figured that out first, pretty much.
What's that?
He came up with that first.
No, he was just ahead of his time in terms, right? I guess in terms of
really
thinking,
good.
Just taking pictures in like industrial areas or
similar like I said, David Paul, almost similar to that type of whether David Paul liked her.
Yeah, very similar to David Paul. Yeah, I bet David.
Probably got ideas. Yeah,
I was gonna say ripped him off. Got some ideas from Herb Ritz.
Inspired. He
inspired. Yeah.
But I was actually training. I was training in the gym, and this like Swedish type guy came up to me. I could barely understand him speak much English. He goes, "I got a job for you," and that's when he gave me the card, and I got the job for the beer commercial. And then it would have been a few weeks later. He's like, "Oh, Herb liked you. He wants to use you again." I'm like, "Oh, what for?" He's like, the cover of Rolling Stones are going to be a surfboard and Cindy Crawford. I'm like, what date is it? He told me. I'm like, oh, fuck, story of my life.
I'm surprised you didn't figure a way to still make it.
I couldn't because of the thing of the immigration thing. It was like one of those things I had to leave at that time and then return type thing. So it was like, with the immigration, I couldn't miss out on it.
And they didn't want to use Sean instead.
No.
No. I think it could have been.
He wasn't
I think it could have been
Sean the way he was Lee. That's why. Lee, what picture? Who took that picture, Lee? Was that him? Do it?
No, that was what's his name? That was just around the back there in Marina Del Rey. That was
You look like
Robert Reef. That was in Robert Reef's studio.
Okay.
Robert Reef had
Marlon Brando there.
No, actually, I'll find it for next week or so because I've got all these photo albums out the back, and I've actually got the newspaper clipping and the photos of a couple of the beach shots of Sean Ray and I in the ocean and that tall supermodel. I forget her name, but she was in that movie with Gary Oldman, that Dracula movie and stuff. She's some famous, a name like, not that Giselle, whatever, but it's a name similar to that. It's one of those, she's an overseas model, but she was a supermodel, yeah. And we had to stand in the ocean. It was freezing, freaking cold, so...
Yeah, you did a lot of photo shoots with a lot of like people like that were famous and stuff like that. And I mean, you did the whole thing. You probably could have gotten into Hollywood if you would have wanted to. They seem to like you, all those producers and actors. And why didn't you ever want to pursue that? You weren't interested?
No, I was one of those people. I was just happy doing what I did. It's like I wasn't into pursuing stuff. If something came to me, I would do it. But I was listening to you the other day when you're talking about when you go for interviews. I mean, like. A casting course, I'd say, Lee, here you go. They got this thing. They want a big bodybuilder. So you'd go up and they'd be like, hey, you're too big. We just want someone like a model type with a bit of muscle. So eventually I was like, I stopped going. And then when I was doing a photo shoot one day, they said, oh, Lee, on your way home, we've got a call. Can you stop at Universal for the Hulk? And I'm thinking, well, at least for the Hulk, they can't say you're too big. So I'll stop and do that one. So I went up there and I remember there's a few other bodybuilders there and just some other people. And as I was leaving, they're like, Ollie, can you come here? John Woo really liked you. Can you? Because I think I just come out of a contest so you could see it, all the muscles and all the veins and stuff, and the stunt coordinator. They're like, we really like you. Can you come back? And that's when they flew me up to George Lucas's studio just to do all the running. Because I remember Ang Lee. Ang Lee was the guy that produced the movie, and he had one of those. Yeah, he had one of those suits on, those motion capture suits that have all the electrodes on it.
Right.
And because it looks still so animated moving in that with me, they just had me running and jumping. And like I said, where the Hulk swings that tank around, I was swinging around a bag of sand on a piece of rope. And where he was fighting the Hulk dogs, I was just fighting sandbags and hitting stuff. And where he picks up the girl, I had to pick up a piece of wood. So that way they could just capture all the way the muscles moved and actually film the muscles moving as well as that electronic type suit thing, and they just put it all together.
Too bad they couldn't. They couldn't have taken any pictures of that.
I know. Well, the worst thing was though, because I've always been quiet. Even when I train, I don't scream. And the guys like this, like as we're in the studio, they probably had like 15 cameras all around me.
Yeah.
And this producer, he would have been as camp as anything. Now, Lee, listen to me, Lee. Listen to me. I need you to be the Hulk. Think the Hulk. Just be the Hulk. And I'm trying not to laugh now, and I'm trying to, I gotta scream and yell and hang from stuff, and it was funny.
Well, you know what it is? You're so like very, you're kind of mellow. Like you're not like a real street. Like that's not your. Like I would have been like they would have like been telling me to shut up because I've been too loud. But you had that physique that they want. Now when they animated you, were you able to? Because your physique obviously better than they were you able to see your physique in the Hulk? That Hulk?
Little bits like the forearms and that. Then I think even in the hands where I got that like muscle in my hand.
Yeah,
that's sort of in some of the things. You can sort of pick pieces here and there because they put that in the computer and then just build it from that. Right. And then I think it was a year or two later when they did the other Hulk movie with Edward Norton, I went to Texas and I did the same sort of stuff for the Hulk video game, which they released on the same day as the movie. So I was just picking up like big barrels of stuff and slamming it down and throwing stuff and hanging from stuff and pulling myself up.
It's funny. So they got Lee Priest's body, and then I believe Lou Ferrigno did the voice of the Hulk in those first two movies too, which was cool. Yeah, he did the roaring and smash.
Well, it's funny. The first one, you had Eric Bana playing the Hulk, and part of my body being the Hulk. So the Hulk was pretty much Australian in the first movie.
There you go. Now, let me ask you a question. Who did they model the face after? Was that just a morphed version of Eric Bana?
I think Eric Bana, yeah. I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Because he had, like, I remember watching something where I think there was one, I don't know if you can find it again. There was one thing, because you had to search the internet, because you know what, those comic websites would come out with stuff and who the Hulk's going to be, and they'd mention me a lot. And there was one, I did find one where it did have a bit of the filming of it, but I've never been able to find it again.
Was Louis? I always forgot to ask Louis. Was he interested in becoming the Hulk again? Like if they would have asked him to like reprise the role? I mean, I know they wanted to animate it, but originally they were thinking about a real person.
I'm sure he would have. Wouldn't he? It'd be silly not to, wouldn't you? I think you'd.
How old was he, Chris, at that point? He was much older though, right?
I don't know, but he
probably was in his 50s, I would think.
I remember he had the cameo in one of them where he played the security guard.
Yes. I think that was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good. I'm glad they did that. Nice homage to Ferrigno.
It would have been good if he had been like even playing a professor. He could have been like Professor Banner in the laboratory or something.
Yeah. Well, they could have made him like you remember in the TV show they used to have like the Demi Hulk that was like Rick Drazen, the in between form of the Hulk. You know, that could have been Lou.
I used to like the Hulk TV show with who was it? Bill Bixby. That was always a good. But even to this day, I always wonder when he would change into the Hulk and that, it's like, why did his pants never tear? It was always the shirt and that, and then he'd get clothes again. I'm like, how much did he spend on wardrobe all the time? Everything else would tear apart from his pants.
Yeah, he was working as like a janitor, and he was going through like clothes every 2 days there.
It's like, you don't want to see me when I'm angry, and Bill Bixby's eyes would get those contacts, and then he'll just turn into the Hulk.
I loved it. I saw this picture, Chris. I wanted your comment on it. Phil Heath put up a picture. I believe it was from Chicago Pro. Let me see if I can pull this up here. What a great picture, right? Bill Comstock took that.
That's looks like it's from the junior.
Oh, it's the Junior Nationals. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is before he turned pro. You're right. Great, good eye, Chris.
I got to put my glasses on because I haven't got the big screen on today.
Yeah.
He looked like he was ready to win the Olympia there, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, he already had look at the tie-ins.
How does someone get like that kind of muscle maturity at such a young age? It's crazy. Incredible.
You know what's so crazy about him, Dave, is when he won whatever he won, like the Nationals, the USA. I mean, his hamstring. It's hard for people to get deep hams. Sometimes you can diet off all the fat and have no water, and you still don't have like deep hamstring separation.
Yeah.
His hamstrings were nuts.
His whole body was pretty crazy. He wasn't huge, but he was so well put together that it was unbelievable. As a matter of fact, he won the USA, Chris. Here's a good trivia fact for you. The same year that my wife, Amanda Dunbar, at the time, won the women's bodybuilding overall at the USA.
I think Jose Raymond won his class there. It was like a welterweight or something.
Oh, did he? Yeah. Well, he won 40 weight classes, Jose, over his course of his career.
So to fill there.
So when JM does the photos the next day, for the NBC News, my Mandarin was in the picture with him. So it was funny.
You asked how you get muscle maturity at a young age. Have I put up a picture? If you look at my Instagram, there's 3 photos of me: a front lat spread, a front double bicep, and a most muscular. Just when I turned 20. Shouldn't be too far into my Instagram page there, but I was just before I came over to do the Niagara Falls show.
The funny thing also, where I was in 2005 for the USA Championships, Chris?
In jail.
I was. You're right.
Was you? Right. I was just taking a guess.
Yeah, you were right. You were right. I was in jail. I missed my sister's wedding, and I missed the USA Championships.
Oh, you're gonna have to buy a present. That you got.
Actually, you know what? I wasn't in jail at that point, but I was on house arrest. I'd gotten out, but I couldn't really travel at that point. So,
did you have the bracelet on the ankle?
Yeah, I had the ankle bracelet.
You should have asked your sister to move the wedding closer, so you could have gone.
Yeah, well, no, my sister wasn't moving her wedding. It was planned like 3 years in advance. Of course, I had to go to jail the exact same time while she was going to get married. Let me ask you this question: is it the picture with Nasser? Is that the one you're asking about?
No, it's just one of me. It's like there's 3 photos of me side by side, a lat spread, a bicep.
I'm going to show this picture. Chris will like this picture, though, too.
Nasser.
Yeah, but Lee didn't go up to 290 when he was 20. 287.
Look at that picture, Chris.
No,
I got to be like Lee and put on my glasses.
I know. I can't see. Can you blow it up, Dave? I still can't see it.
Instagram, you can't blow it up.
Yeah, that's. How old are you there, Lee?
Is that from a European show, isn't it?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been 97, so I would have been 25. Is that Kevin, Nasser, and myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Kevin won, Nasser was second, I got third at that one.
No, I think that's France. Is that Francois?
No, that's Kevin LeBron in the middle.
It is. It looks like maybe I need my glasses on too.
When you get your thyroid done, Dave, get your corneas checked at the same time.
That's Lavroni in the middle? Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
It's from one of those European shows, I'm sure. Yeah.
And what year was that?
97 it would have been on the European tour.
Wow. That's when Lavroni looked really, really good.
I just threw up some old photos in my last post there of Dexter and I, and there's one of Kevin and I, and there's one of me, Jay Cutler, and Marcus Rule standing together doing a relax shot. So I think it's the last post I put up, because Dexter put up one of me and I, so I found one of Dexter and myself, and it was near to one of me and Jay. Oh, there's one of Sean and I doing an ab shot too at the
Here's the Lee picture that you were talking about.
Yeah, that's when I was 20, just before I come over here.
How crazy is that, Chris? 20 years old.
Yeah, you know what? To the left, you look like your upper body looks exactly like Eddie Robinson.
Yeah.
I used to love it.
Chris, he actually looks like you a little bit in the face. It almost looks like a young Chris Aceto there.
You look insane there. That's when you came over and did the Niagara League?
Yeah, I was coming to do the amateurs, and then when they realized I'd won the national title here, they petitioned and got my pro card, so I did the Niagara Falls Pro Show.
What place did you get?
9th.
Did you get screwed or no?
Well, people said I did because they didn't know who I was, but I was happy. I was too busy standing on stage, because I come from Australia, I'd only ever seen these guys in the magazine, so I'm on stage oh, wow, there's David Durf, there's such and such. I'm like, I'm too busy looking at who I'm on stage with to worry about competing.
They probably no one knew who he was. That they didn't, back then these judges didn't know how to if someone just came out of nowhere, they didn't know how to respond to it. It was almost like
that's why I said because I remember Irvin Gelb called me up for some reason, who I don't talk to much.
Yeah.
But Irvin Gelb said, I saw it. There's a freak. From Australia. He says, God, he knew you. You know what? He knew your measurements, Lee. 22 inch arm.
Well, Irv was good friends with Blue Zurich, so he would have known all my measurements. Yeah, Irv was the first one to shoot me when I got to Golds. Did you find that latest post, Dave? The one of me, Jay, and Marcus Rule?
No. When did you put it?
It's the last post on Instagram. Should be my luck.
For some reason, it's not popping up. I don't know why.
Refresh your browser, Dave.
I did, believe me. I got too many browsers.
Well, actually, it's me and Dexter's the first one, but there's a couple of pictures I put in there with it.
Maybe I don't know why it hasn't popped up.
I
got 14 browsers open. I don't understand.
Try Google Chrome. It's me and Dexter doing a lat spread shot.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Use your phone, Dave. Oh, you can't post it up on your phone?
No, it's got to come up. It should be coming up. I don't know why it's not coming up.
It's your Wi-Fi again in Florida. Come on, what's going on?
I'm not even using Wi-Fi. So listen to this. So it'll probably come up in a second. Jimmy the Bull was going to surprise me and drive down to. He was on his way. He's actually in Florida now. He drove down. He stopped at John Romano's. He didn't tell me. but he told my wife, which thank God he told my wife. So he picks the 1 week to drive down, and he had to drop off some jet skis for some guy. Some guy paid him to drive his jet skis down. But he picks the 1 week where I'm actually getting cancer surgery. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he just got over COVID, right? And he's going to like stopping at John's, and then he's going to like a barbecue in Tampa. My wife's like, you can't come over here and expose him the day before his surgery to potentially COVID. So he was all. He can
stand at your front gate with a mask.
I told him. I said you could come over. He's going to come over, and you could stand. You could do the show from the driveway.
He won't let me in. He can stand on the other side of that pond and just.
He's like, across. Dave, I'm so depressed that I feel like I got shot down in a World War II movie by a fighter pilot. I said, Jimmy, I'm depressed that I have to get my thyroid removed. so hopefully we'll get to at least see him, but I'm not gonna be able to spend any intimate time with Jimmy. So, but the thought was nice.
So close, but so far.
I know. So
he's gonna stand outside your hospital and just yell at you through the window.
Yeah. So I'm getting surgery in Hollywood, which is like Fort Lauderdale area. And so it's about 2.5 hour drive. So I'm getting it done Wednesday morning. So they're like, you got to come and do pre-surgical. Like, I said, pre-surgical what? They're like, oh, you got to get COVID tested. I said, I got to drive 150 miles to get COVID tested. Why can't you get COVID tested over here? Well, if you get COVID tested Monday morning, where you are, if we don't get the results on Wednesday morning, then you don't get surgery. Yeah. I'm like, geez. I said, and then she's like, oh, you know what? You got to get your blood type taken anyway. I said, they just did my blood type. I got a transfusion the last time I got my shoulder done. I was bleeding so much. They had my blood type in the system. Believe me.
Yeah, it could have changed. It could have changed.
That's why we're not doing the show live at midnight. We're filming this. We're taping this a little early because I actually have to get up early. I have to waste 5 hours of my life driving.
Are you going to stay there? Are you going to stay?
My wife would say it's a vacation I'm going on, for the drive because I don't have any responsibility, and she's probably right. And no, I'm not going to stay there, Lee. I got to drive there and come back because I don't have the surgery until Wednesday, and then Tyler, our producer, is going to drive me on Wednesday morning.
Well, what happens if you come back and get COVID? Then you go back and you got COVID.
Well, I don't go anywhere. That's the whole thing. If I get exposed to Jimmy Collecchia, I might get COVID. That's why I'm not.
You should go there, get the test, go into quarantine before the operation, and just stay there.
I know. Well, I was telling Chris I think on another show that probably in a month or so I'm going to have to go back and get radioactive iodine, depending on where this like little nodule is. They may have to give me radioactive because with thyroid cancer, it's great because thyroid cells intake iodine. They're the only cells in the body that really uptake iodine. So if you give a person radioactive iodine, any thyroid cell, including the thyroid cancer cells, no matter where in the body they may be, will suck up this thyroid that's radioactive, and it will destroy the cell. So it's a good way to get rid of any kind of like rogue possible cancer cells that might be floating around. I probably don't have any. I hope I don't, at least. But if I did, but the problem is when they give you this radioactive iodine, for 2 days you're actually radioactive. So you can't actually go.
You're the Hulk.
I can't hang out with my kids, for 2 days. So I'm actually have to go into a hotel and quarantine, like you, Lee.
Just get angry and see if you turn into the Hulk when you got it in you.
I might go expose myself to some gamma rays just to see if my cells will flip over and I turn into the Hulk.
What's that stuff they put in you when you go in? Is it that, or I remember when I've gone into those machines, they put that stuff in and it like feels warm going through your veins.
That's like contrast. Yeah, it's like a contrast.
Yeah, it's like that warm feeling.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling at all.
That's what Jimmy had, didn't he? He didn't want it. I don't want the contrast.
Oh, he didn't want it. Exactly. He didn't want the IV either. He didn't want the IV at all. So
it'd be a terrible patient, Jimmy, wouldn't he?
Well, he's the toughest guy I know, but yet he's the biggest baby when it comes to like little stuff like that, like where he has to go into a hospital and he's vulnerable to like the people there, He becomes like a little child again. So
I used to know so many bodybuilders, like it'd be weird because you'd be a bodybuilder, you'd be professional, and you take all these needles yourself. You give yourself needles for this and different type of supplements. So when they go to hospital and the nurse brings a needle out, they're like, oh, I don't want that needle. It's like,
you know what? The thing is, I don't have a problem sticking a needle in myself. It's when other people stick the needle in me that I have the problem, because they always fuck it up somehow. Oh. I can't tell you. I have the most veins of any person alive, okay? And as soon as I always blow it. I always say to the nurse, you know I have a lot of veins, but a lot of times they miss because they're squiggly and they're rubber. Like I have like steel veins. I'm like Superman. You can't pierce my vein. She's like, I've been doing this 30 years. As soon as they say that, I know I'm gonna walk out with bruises all over my arms. You know,
it's funny you say that. I had to get a blood test last Friday, so I fasted and stuff for the blood test. Yeah. Normally when you fast and you don't eat, your veins disappear. But I was happy because this one in my arm was right down. Like, wow, she's got a big vein. Yes, she goes in. I'm thinking, yes, she got it first go. And now she's got the needle in there. But you know how they clip that thing on the back to fill up?
Yeah.
As soon as she clipped that on the back, I felt the needle go through the vein. You know when you get that real painful.
Yeah.
And now it's not filling up, and I'm like, and now she's wiggling it around, pulling it back, and I'm like,
you're gonna have a huge bruise.
Right. Yeah. Then she finally gets it, and it's filling with blood again. I'm like, oh, thank God. But yeah, as soon as she pushed that thing on the back, and then she disconnected that one, and when she went to put the other one on, I'm like, is it going to go through again? But yeah, she finally filled them up. But as soon as I felt it go through the vein, I went, oh shit, here we go.
The best part of the whole surgical process, it's right before the best part, you're the most terrified because they roll you into the operating room, and I've had, unfortunately, been
cold,
and you know that you're about to get cut open, and it's like no one wants to go through that, right? So you're sitting there and you're like trying to be like cool about the whole thing, and they're setting up and they're cleaning shit and they're getting the gloves on and everything, and you're just laying there like, oh, they're gonna. And now you're starting to ask dumb questions because like you're very nervous. Yeah, you can't not be nervous going into an operating room, you know. So you're asking dumb questions that most of these people who are there have no answers to because they're not the doctor, you know. And then eventually, you know, the anesthesiologist is in there and they're, you know, they get the IVs and they're putting 14 different little nozzles on, and they're like, all right, this is going to relax you. That's the best part. When they put that stuff in, they tell you to start counting back, and they say, how do you feel? For about 10 seconds before you actually pass out and fall asleep from the propofol, it's the greatest feeling of all time. I was talking, I'm like, I feel like my father, Chris. I'm like talking like about crazy shit that like I could, you know, telling him about what I do, and I'm like giving all these brilliant insights. You know, if they only videotaped them,
it's like the truth. Like a truth serum, you just keep jabbing away. It's like, and you always notice, I find too, I try not to drink, but whenever I'm waiting in that room outside the operating room, I've always got to pee. I'm like, I've got to take a piss and I can't go anywhere. And then, as you said, they're setting up. I'm like, do I really have to pee, or is it just nerves making me want to pee? And as soon as you go into that room, the operating room, it's like going into the morgue. It's so bloody cold. It's freezing.
Oh, yeah.
They
got like 14 blankets on you to keep you warm, you know.
And then they don't ask us to count here. They just start talking to you. Because when I had my throat done, I watched a video on it where they cut it open and they put this like thing in that opens up your neck wide, and then they move everything to the side. And I'm thinking, and I was asking him, do you ever like mess up and hit anything and stuff?
He's asking dumb questions. I told you, right? I mean, like he's gonna say, "Yeah, I mess up all the time, Lee."
He's like, "Yeah, some people's voices might change." He says a bit, and I'm like, "Oh, will it be deep? So I'll sound really cool when I come out."
Sound like a little girl.
Yeah, he was talking to me, and I just sort of dozed off. But the funniest one was when they did the eye surgery. They don't put you completely out, so I remember them moving around in there, and I'm opening my eye up, and I can sort of see, and I'm talking to him, and then I start making jokes like, don't use slip, I don't want to be a pirate, and all this sort of stuff. And he starts laughing, and I'm thinking, oh, I could just had the thing to think, Lee, don't make the doctor laugh while he's got a thing in your eye.
You say dumb shit in there because you're so freaking nervous, I'm telling you.
And like I said, I was in that twilight stage. I was in that twilight zone, so I could sort of talk and just say stupid crap like, I'm going to be a pirate, aren't I? And stuff like that.
Chris, have you ever had a surgery, Chris?
Yeah, I had cancer surgery.
Oh, they actually had to remove it, right? Now, were you out, or was that like a local?
Out.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. So that period, when they tell you to count backwards, that's like, right? It's the most relaxed.
Oh yeah. Now you know why Michael Jackson was on propofol every night.
Big time.
The thing is, you try and Did you try and fight it though too? You try and see how far you can go. Like, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to 99, 98, 97.
Yeah.
You start saying, make sure I'm awake. Make sure make sure I'm asleep. I always tell them, don't start before I'm out, you know.
You only last 2 seconds, 3 seconds. They say, count backwards.
Yeah.
You think you're going to get to from 100? I wonder how it'll be like when I get down to like 20 and 19. And he said 99, 98. And you wake up. He said, did you do the surgery? Right?
Yeah.
We did it. How long was I in there for? Like 3 hours. 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. They actually, you actually think that you might not fall asleep. I remember a couple times that, I'm gonna I'm too Superman. They're not gonna be able to knock me out, especially when I was really big and I was getting my shoulders scoped. I'm like, guys, please make sure don't start until I'm asleep. You're gonna be asleep. Don't worry about it. You know.
Well, you ever watch those shows where there's people where they put them out, but they can say I think some woman. She's having some surgery where they sort of put her out, but they didn't do whatever the numbing was. And she was sort of asleep. And as they were cutting it, I couldn't understand why her heart's going crazy because she said she could feel it. She could feel it, but even though she was out. But the only one I was sort of awake for was when I had to go get the camera put down my throat to look inside my stomach and that sort of thing. And I've watched those shows. I'm thinking it's going to be this tiny, thin cable with the light on the end. It comes out, it's like a black tube as thick as my finger, all rolled up. I'm like, oh, that's not going to be good because I got gag reflux thing. And they put up IV in each arm, and she gives her these 2 big like horse syringes. She goes, now you'll just relax. You'll have this like amnesiac effect. You won't remember it. I'm thinking, oh, great, because I don't want to. She injects it, and I'm laying there. I'm just listening to the machine, beep, beep, and she comes over, and I open my eyes up. She goes, oh, you're still well? I said, yeah, I feel fine. She goes, oh, let me talk to the doctor. So she goes, get some more. She injects it in. Same thing, I'm still awake. And then she comes back and she tells the doctor, well, I don't know, maybe we can't give him too much more. So they give me a lot more. I was awake through the whole thing. All I remember was I was sort of in and out, but I was totally awake. They're putting the tube down. As soon as they start putting it in, I grab it and start pulling it out. And she's rubbing my head, just relax. And they're pushing it down. He's like, swallow, swallow. I'm like, I'm trying to pull it out. And he's pushing it back. They finally got it done. But for 2 weeks, my throat was that messed up because they're pushing it down. I'm pulling it out. So he's trying to push it back down. I can't swallow it. It was the worst ever in my life. Oh,
they're not fun.
Like fighting over a garden hose going down my neck.
It's crazy, but when I think, you try to make like sense out of the whole thing. And you try to say to yourself, well, all right, I'm going for the surgery. Obviously I know when you had your spine done, also they had to go through your neck. You have to try to keep a positive mindset. But, I've heard so many people have terrible things happen to them. I'm like, you know what? It's not a big deal. It is a big deal because obviously I have cancer diagnosis, but at the same time, it could be a lot worse. And, I don't know if you guys remember, Melissa Detweiler. Mm-hmm. She competed. I used to do her diet. She has breast cancer, like stage 3 or something like that. And so she found out the same day I did, that she had it. And she's got, a young kid. And so, that could be me, so I have sympathy. Xavier Wills, who we know, who's been on the show before, his wife, was diagnosed with breast cancer and cervical cancer at the same time. And they have 2 young kids, and she's got 2 older kids from another previous marriage. And, they're having financial issues. He's got a GoFundMe campaign that, you guys should go contribute to. He's a great guy. So, everyone has problems in their life. And, you have to kind of just, put it in perspective, obviously. Luckily, I caught mine early. I'm being proactive about it. I'm not putting my head in the sand about it. I'm not, just laying back and saying, oh, I give up. I'm taking the same approach to this that I took with bodybuilding, get all my data at my disposal, have a game plan, go forward with it, and hopefully, get the outcome that I want. And that's, that's all you can do, really. But
isn't it funny how the negative sticks in your mind? Like they could have done 1 million operations, and let's just say 900,900 of them are all successful. There'll be those 3 horror stories, and as you're going in, that's what plays in your mind. Well, there was that one that just messed up.
Right. Well, yeah, but you know what they tell you? They say, oh, it's probably when they did the thyroid ultrasound originally. They're like, oh, everyone has nodules. They're like, I can't tell you how many nodules I scan every day. They're usually fine. So as soon as she said that to me, I knew right off the bat mine wasn't going to be okay. I'm never the normal.
You're like, I'll be that one. It's like, why can't this happen when I get a lotto ticket? Why can't I be that one to win the lotto?
Right. And then what happens is then you start getting really paranoid, because then you have to go for the pre-surgical testing. They have to do like a EKG and a chest X-ray. I mean, I'm like, oh no. I'm like, after the chest X-ray, I'm like, is it clear?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm thinking they can find shit on my lungs or something. Now you start getting paranoid about the whole thing.
Be like, well, by the way, Dave, once we're finished with your thyroid, you have to come back next month. We're doing a bypass.
Right. Well, think about it. They were checking my aorta, which is enlarged, and they find the thyroid. Thank God the aorta didn't get any bigger. The aorta stayed the same. It's like, by the way, you have cancer in addition to the fact that your aorta is too big.
I think the worst thing is, like you said, though, when you know the doctor and that, when you expect them to call up and say you're fine, when they say, I need to speak to you, then you know, oh shit.
Yeah, of course. And my friend is a doctor. He's like, after he gets the biopsy results back, he texts me. He's like, give me a call. I know right away there's something wrong. And I knew it was going to come back anyway that way. But he originally, he would have texted me, oh, you're fine, don't worry about it, So it's crazy. It is what it is. You gotta be able to take the good with the bad, and you have to roll with the punches, and you have to be able to, you have to be resilient. You can't let the stuff bother. You can't turn this situation into a negative situation, and I think that's what a lot of people do. They give up. They're like, every time something goes wrong in their life, they give up. You can't do that.
I always think that no matter how badly, I keep always thinking, no matter how badly, there's always someone a lot worse off. So
absolutely,
it's like always.
Yeah. Here's another thing, Chris, that I get asked a lot also, and I want you to comment. Do you think that your thyroid cancer was caused by the GH you took, in your career, or IGF-1 or insulin or steroids? And the answer to that question, I'm pretty confident in giving the answer is no, because I haven't used any of that in 5 years. You know what I mean? If it would have happened like while I was doing steroids and GH and all that stuff, I would have been like, well, maybe, but I don't believe that that's the case at all. I think it's a combination of genetics, potentially a genetic predisposition, combined with something environmental. And, it's funny, environmentally speaking, the thyroid gland accumulates a lot of the junk, heavy metals and toxins that our body comes into. It goes right to your thyroid for some reason. That's a pretty well-known fact. And that's why a lot of people get thyroid cancers and stuff like that, believe it or not, because even any kind of radiation exposure, a lot of times can.
What do you think environmentally?
Well, it's funny. I did a heavy metal, screening. The guy, Bill Llewellyn, who writes the anabolics books, he sells these health tests on his website. And I wanted to do a little review of them. So I did a heavy metal panel, because I'm always convinced. I'm absolutely convinced I was going to be high in mercury, right, Chris? Because I love sushi and I eat tuna.
Yeah, I would guess very high. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so recently, like in the lab, because of that, and I know guys that are high, like Jason Hutt was very high in mercury, almost to the point of being toxic. And he was eating, I think he was eating, what was he eating? Striped bass or something like that. He was eating a ton of it every day. Now, I hadn't really eaten a lot of tuna. I'm a big salmon eater, and salmon don't usually have a lot of mercury. They usually have a lot of other toxins, but not mercury, because they're not big fish. So I was really, but I had another client of mine who also, because I said that before, I don't eat a lot of tuna, I eat more salmon. He did that, and he came back very high in mercury. So he wanted me to, he's like, you should get tested. And I'm like, all right, fine. So I did this. It's like you stick your finger and you put it like the blood splotches on a card, and then you send it into them. Once again, Bill Llewellyn has him on his anabolics, his website. So I do the test and I send it in. And I forgot that I did it. They must have sent me a link to the results, but I never saw it. And I just said, what? I took that test in December. I wonder what my heavy metals are. So I got the results back the other day. And it's interesting because my mercury was normal, believe it or not. I wasn't high in mercury, but I was high in lead.
Oh, Dave, I was just going to ask you, what was your lead count?
Lead was high. Now, it wasn't like excessively. I was a little bit over the high limit.
I was just going to ask you, what was your lead count? Go ahead.
And you know where lead comes from?
Paint.
No, well, I mean, yeah, I'm not eating paint.
Well, but
kids eat paint chips. Yeah, that's why they say that. But no, most people don't even know this. Anything that grows in the ground has lead in it.
That's right.
And
it comes from Dave. I wasn't saying that you eating lead, but you probably grew up in a house that had lead paint in it, and it sticks around forever.
Right. But I don't think you could actually get lead in your system from just being in a lead painted house. You'd have to actually consume the lead.
Dave,
Dave, call in the lead specialist. I just abated for lead 10 buildings.
Really?
You can get it. It floats around in the air.
Really?
In door jams. It's on windows that aren't.
I wonder if I got it from where my old office was. It was in an industrial center. It was tons of fucking terrible air in that quality there. I bet that's where I got it.
You don't have to eat lead. That's just a guarantee that you're going to. It's just like you don't. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to eat.
I hope you're right.
Get it.
I hope you're right because I can get. I think it's from vegetables because if you eat a lot of vegetables because they grow in the ground. I eat a ton of vegetables. It'll accumulate in your system over time.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch a good movie, Mark Garofalo. There's a good movie similar to Erin Brockovich. It only came out. It could have been last year, called Dark Waters, and I forget what it's about. Did you watch that movie, Chris?
Yeah.
How that one lawyer fought that case. I think it was against DuPont, wasn't it? And some of the stuff DuPont was doing and causing cancers and stuff. And he fought for years and years and years, pretty much losing everything. But he finally won the case. And it's amazing how much of all that stuff that DuPont has in things that are causing cancers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They have a full menu of things that cause cancer, DuPont.
I think it could be vegetables, but the good news is that they do sell. If you go out and buy, they sell it in powder form. EDTA, ED is in David, T is in Tom, A is in Apple. EDTA is a chelating agent, and you can take the powder and you can put it under your tongue sublingually and absorb it. And EDTA binds up heavy metals and will pull it out of your body. A more elaborate way to get rid of it would be, and I haven't bothered using it yet, but I have an ozone sauna. Ozone attracts heavy metals and will draw it out of your skin if you put the ozone into a heated sauna. I have the sauna, I just haven't had the time to use it. But
how about if I get a super magnet and start at your neck and come all the way down to your butthole? I'll just drag it out of you. Right.
So I don't know. Maybe the lead content had something to do with the thyroid cancer. I don't know. It's you can go through every litany of everything you've ever done wrong.
The tap water in New York you're drinking probably full of lead.
Yeah. I wasn't drinking the tap water, but I was drinking bottled water. But I would, brushing your teeth and stuff like that. Who knows? You start getting paranoid about everything. You don't want to eat anything. You don't want to eat it. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to go anywhere. You're afraid to do anything because everything has got toxins everywhere, and you start getting paranoid.
I think, like you said, though, it could be genetic because even when it comes to the steroid side, I've known guys to abuse steroids, and I mean abuse them, and their bloods, liver, kidneys, perfect. They've even had kids, and the amount of tests they're taking, I'm thinking there's no way you could ever have children, and they have children. I know people that smoke, not one bit of cancer in them. Then I know people in my family that have smoked and died of cancer, lung cancer. So I think a lot of it, then I've known people that eat healthy, salads, fish, on that type of diet in their 40s, drop dead of a heart attack. Then I know I've got friends that eat McDonald's, drink and smoke, and they're in their 60s, 70s and still going. So I think a lot of it is genetics, just your genetic makeup of what you're prepositioned to. And sure, what you put in your body can speed things up or maybe, but I think if something's going to happen, you're going to get it no matter if you're healthy, if you use drugs, if you smoked, didn't smoke,
It makes you want to get your whole body scanned, constantly because you start getting paranoid about the fact that,
that's the problem, paranoid.
If I got a thyroid nodule, luckily I caught it by accident. What if I have a liver nodule or this nodule or that nodule? You want to know. It's like, you start thinking, well, maybe, something's going wrong, and so you have to get out of that mindset because it will the fear will paralyze you and create tremendous anxiety. Now, luckily, I don't live like that. That's not me, but I can understand how people can start getting to the point where they start creating almost illness in their head because they read too much, and there's too much information out there, and everything causes this, and you can't even eat healthy anymore and still be healthy, because if you eat healthy, there's lead in the freaking soil.
Don't go on Dr. Google. I remember that one time I was even on there, because I got friends that always go to Google. I remember I had just had a pain down here. I'm like, oh, I wonder what that is. Let me just look. Pain in lower stomach. Oh, liver cancer, bowel cancer, colon cancer, everything came up cancers. I'm like, Jesus, now I'm dying. So then I am like you. Then I start panicking. Wonder if I do have something down there. And then I had like the runs, but I'm not thinking because I had some dairy products on lactose, I got the runs, and it's like a sign of bowel cancer.
Second symptom.
Change in stool, runny poo. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So I said to my wife, I might have to go to the hospital. She says, what are you going to say? I said, I can't say I got a stomach ache. I've had that cardiomyopathy. So every time I go to the emergency room, well, what's wrong, sir? Chest pain. I had a cardiomyopathy once. They take me straight in.
That's a Blackman, how you get in the emergency room. Tell them you're having a heart attack.
They take you straight in, and then while I'm there, I say, any other thing? I said, I got this real bad pain down here and stuff. So they run all the tests. A day later, you're fine. I'm like, whew, I'm good. But it's almost like I need the doctors and hospitals to tell me I'm fine, because now I got my head worked up, thinking I got all these things going on.
Well, think about this. Chris had melanoma. Like, he didn't even know it. It was like a mole that was there for like his whole life. You must be a nutcase, Chris. If you see any little dot pop on your body, you must be heading to the dermatologist when you see that.
No. I mean, I don't. I think people overreact to pains and symptoms, and I mean, you can drive yourself crazy. I mean, if I get a mole because I had skin cancer, I'd have it cut off. I have very few moles left. I don't think there's anything left to cut off. But people become you can become a hypochondriac with. Pains and aches. Aches and pains are part of, having a body, right? I mean, you're going to experience all kinds of things, and
right,
But
you've had something wrong with you, and yours obviously was very serious, and you had to have interferon treatment for a whole year. You have to think that you're going to respond a little more aggressively now if you see something that popped up on your body, a black, beauty mark somewhere or something like that. That you would probably go get it checked out, I would think, right?
Yeah, I'd have it checked out, but I think, I'm of the mindset, something's going to get you at some point anyway. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, something's going to get you at some point, some type of, unless you die in your sleep, a crash, a plane crash or a car crash, something's going to go wrong. It's like an old car. Your body is like an old car, the older you get, there's always something popping up.
You need tune-ups, a lot of tune-ups. Chris gets a lot of tune-ups for that old Mercedes.
I go every year, because being in Australia, we have a lot of skin cancers down here. But I always go every 12 months. I go to the skin cancer clinic, and they check all the moles and look them over every 12 months and that. But I always figure, so I'll be one of those people that is like, panicking about something. I got to go to the hospital. I got this pain in my stomach. And I'll be so panicking about the pain in my stomach, I probably get hit by a car crossing the road, going to the doctor.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why you have to be. It's got to be controlled hysteria. It can't be out of control hysteria. Look, there's a lot of bodybuilders ask me this all the time. Am I going to get cancer from taking GH? And my answer to them is GH will make your cancer grow faster if you have it. It will not cause you to get cancer. I do not believe that at all.
Well, Dave, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people get cancer and haven't taken GH.
Right.
I mean, right? I mean, you could go into a hospital today and they could diagnose someone with cancer. And of course, the doctor would say, did you ever use anabolics? And you say, yeah, I used them for like 5 years. To say, well, a doctor would say, well, there it is.
There it is, right, of course.
But somebody else could come in, never having, just someone off the street, and they would have never made some type of weird connection to their lifestyle choices. They'd say, well, thousands and thousands of people get cancer. Yeah. And we don't even know where it's from. It could be environmental. It could be a hereditary. Only in bodybuilding do they pin it immediately.
Every time.
Think about how many people have taken GH in the history of bodybuilding now since the late 80s, and how many people have gotten cancer who have taken GH. Probably a very, very, very small percentage. Just probably equal to whatever the normal percentage is in the U.S. population. So, is there a link? Probably not. Now, I do know my friend Vinny Bolger had testicular cancer, and he was on GH at the time. And the thing, he said, grew really fast. And it actually was the thing that saved his life, because the testicle got big so fast that he actually noticed it. And he went to the doctor, and they removed it, and he had to go through a whole bunch of therapies, and he beat it, obviously. But had he not been on the GH, it might not have grown as fast. It might have had a chance to spread. So in essence, the GH actually saved him. But yes, his did grow much faster because of the fact that he was.
I love how you put that, Dave. The GH saved him. I just can't.
It did,
It was
really.
so important.
Him and Lance Armstrong were saved.
He had
from
the
the
same
gig.
doctor. He went to the same doctor as Lance Armstrong, did he? And he had the same procedure done.
But it's true what Chris says. Anyone in this industry, as soon as you have a heart attack, you get sick or anything, it's the steroids. It's the steroids. And
Of course.
if you even just to take bodybuilders out, just general people, kids, college students, other athletes, even the amount of people that use anabolics, even people that use anabolics for proper medical purposes, to say that steroids cause all these problems all the time is just crazy. But I remember one time I was at the gym with my training partner. I took a day off because I had like a flu. And Kurt Miller went to the gym, and this girl's like, "Where's Lee today?" He's like, "He's at home sick." Her first reply was, "That's because he takes too many steroids." I was like, he's at home with the flu. Oh, well, his immune system's down from the steroid use. It's like, you can't win. So no matter if you're a bodybuilder and you die, it's always going to be steroid related. He was in a car crash. He was in a car crash. Well, he probably had road rage from the steroids, driving crazy. And that's what killed him.
But he hasn't used steroids for 20 years. Well, latent roid rage is a new terminology.
Yeah. Lee used to get that fat. The steroids were built up in his fat cells, and he didn't know it was still releasing into his body. That's what killed him.
The funny thing is, I had no medical problems when I was on steroids. It's when I got off the steroids I have all the medical problems now.
It's like alcoholics. You've seen some of those alcoholics that drink, and when they come off, they actually get sicker and worse. It's almost like that alcohol keeps them at a certain level with their body, whether it's the toxicity or whatever. But as soon as they come off, they get really sick, withdrawals, and some die when they stop actually drinking.
Right. No, you're right. So, are we going to see a bodybuilding season this year, Chris?
Yeah, of course. Full course, whatever, full blown ahead, full course.
Well, I mean, it is delayed. Obviously, the shows are going to start. I believe Indy is the first pro show, right? The Indianapolis Pro.
Yeah, 8 weeks or so.
Yeah, I think that's.
You see, Italy's shutting right back down.
I was going to say Europe has been shut down quite a bit. I know the UK is also shut down.
That's funny. My friend Aaron and them. Like UK shut down, but Aaron, who owns the Mental Hamster, they just left UK. How's this? They drove from UK. You go through that tunnel through France under the whatever and come out. He goes, they just showed their passport on the English side. Once they got to the French side, no one there. Straight out the tunnel, off the train, straight into France, and drove down to Spain. No checks.
Really? Now, why is that, Lee?
He said it's crazy because on the news they're saying they're doing checks and this and that, but he said they got check leaving England, just showing the passport before you get onto where you drive your car into the train thing. But when they came out the other side, no one, just off you drive and off you go. And he just went from there all the way down through France, down all the way into Spain. So,
how long does it take to get through that tunnel?
Oh, it's not long, less than an hour. It's not that long.
Did you drive through, or the train takes your car through?
No, the train, you just drive your car into the train, almost like a passenger train, but a lot bigger. And you got bigger carriages for bigger cars, but you just put your cars in them, and your cars will just sit there, and off you go and come out the other side and just come out.
How many cars can they fit in that train? That's what I'd like to know.
In each carriage, the one we went on when I went once, there would have been up top, because you go up top and bottom. I think there's probably, you can get like almost 4, depending on the size of the cars and that, but you can get a few on.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem like a lot of cars. How much does it cost to get that little train ride?
I don't know. He paid for it, so I don't know. But yeah, you can get out of your car and just stand there or go to the toilet. Maybe just sit in your car. Generally, just sit in the car and come out the other side.
Sit in the car the whole time. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. There's no seats like a normal train. You just sit in your car. And
So it's just a car. It's just a car carrier, essentially.
Yeah, it's almost just like if you're going somewhere where you drive your car onto a ship or a boat and you go across and drive off. Yeah, it's just like that. But yeah, you can't really. You can get out to go to a toilet. They have toilets, but everyone just sits in their car and come out the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he had no checks at all. He goes, it's crazy because on the TV you'll see people. He's in Spain now, and everyone's out walking around restaurants in the sun.
Hey, I heard a rumor that Trump may run for the House of Representatives in Florida. You think that's a rumor, Chris? You think he'd do that?
It was Ivanka, right?
I heard Trump wants to do it. I don't know. Is it Ivanka who wants to do it now?
He would never step down.
No, I don't think he would either, but who knows?
Yeah, he might. I mean, if they came up with like president of the world, he'd want to run for that.
The only president ever to take an office after his presidency was William Howard Taft, who actually was put on the Supreme Court as the Supreme Court head justice for 11 to 12 years after his presidency.
I heard a rumor that Biden might do an actual press conference soon.
Oh, really? And he'll be awake?
Every time I turned on the TV this weekend, I thought Weekend at Bernie's was on. It was just him giving that address from the White House. I'm like, oh, come on.
You know what? I told everyone. I said, you're not going to even know that aside from the Twitter being shut down, you won't even know that there's any difference in president. Nothing changes. People think like, so-and-so is taking office. Everything's going to change.
No.
Nothing is changing, really.
It's like here in Australia, we have Liberal and Labor, and they're at each other's throats. They hate each other.
Yeah.
But then you'll see somewhere there's a dinner, and the same guys are just on TV tearing shreds out of each other. They're having dinner together, $1,000 bottle of wines and stuff. It's all like it doesn't matter who's in. It's all run by the people behind the scenes. It's like,
Isn't that the way it always? That's the way of the world, right?
And that's why I don't see why people get so mad, because really they can't. The president really doesn't have a say in much. He's a nice figurehead and has like a voice, but really the people behind him are running the show.
Well, you guys had an IFBB Pro show in Australia, a Bikini Pro show. It was it was only bikini people, but
yeah, I think we had two shows because we had the New South Wales. They had an IFBB show, and then they had one up in Queensland, I think, a week ago, where that Bikini Pro was.
It was the Australia Pro Bikini. It was what was the date of that show? It was March 6th. Melissa Carver won it. Do you know who Melissa Carver is, Lee?
No, I don't follow Bikini Dave.
It was.
I said, don't give us the results. He's giving the results.
No, I wanted to give some accolades
at all.
I don't have any men's bodybuilding report.
I know, but nobody cares at all. Who
will be the first men's pro champion of 2021? There's a prediction I'm asking for. Does anyone know that?
What's the first? Who's in the first show?
I don't know. I'm asking you guys to make a prediction based on nothing.
Who's the show? What's the show coming up that Walker and Blessing and all them are doing? And
that's the Indie Pro, I think. Yeah.
Yes, is that the Indie?
I think so.
It'd be hard to say because I just hope because you see Blessing, you see Walker, and who's the other one? Justin Rodriguez, is it or
Justin Rodriguez? Yeah, probably.
Any of them really. If any of them come in great shape, anyone. It's not actually.
The New York Pro is going to be May 15th in Tampa again this year.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah.
I think Nick's doing that one too, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Nick Walker is doing that. Yeah. That should be a good show. I think that's going to have a lot of good guys in it. I think there'll be a couple guys warming up in Indy, which I believe is the weekend before this, according to the schedule, which is May 8th. So you have May 8th, and then the following weekend you'll have the May 15th in Tampa, Florida, will be the New York Pro. So
and you'll be over your surgery. You can go along and report live from there, Dave.
I'm not going until everyone's vaccinated. I'm not going.
Get out the house, Dave. Come on.
I'm doing
it. Even everyone on Earth. Everyone on Earth, please.
I am not going anywhere.
Come on.
I'm not exposing my family.
We're just talking about hypochondriacs, Dave. Come on. You got to get it.
You know what? I saw Jimmy the Bull he got COVID like 2 weeks ago. He was so out of it. He told, and my sister got it too. He said, I felt like the worst I've ever felt. And
you
Jimmy's
picked the worst case. You picked the worst case, Jimmy.
Yeah. But he was one of those guys. I'm not wearing a mask. I don't believe in this shit.
But
it's always those guys that get hit the hardest,
Well, why can't you look at Chris? Chris went to the Olympia. He had a mask on. He was socializing. Chris didn't get sick. So why you got to look at the negative? Look at the positive.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But
Chris,
I know a lot of people at the Olympia who did get sick.
Yeah, Chris
don't bring that up, Chris. Chris, don't bring that up. Look, I'm trying to get him out of the house.
The Olympia talk to Milos. The Olympia was a disaster. A lot of people got COVID there.
Well, a lot of people got sick and didn't want to admit how sick they got.
Yeah.
I'm going to see this now. Dave's never going to leave the house. I'll be watching the news one day. A meteorite hits Florida. I'm going to Google it. Dave's house
shows up at the show. I'll show up there too. That means he did the research. Yeah. He knows that it's safe to go out.
Like I said, you'll be one of those people that's going to stay home, and the meteor will hit your house.
It's fine.
I didn't get COVID though, but the meteor got me.
You know what the problem is, Lee? Because I'm a notoriously selfish person. My wife would say, not maybe as much as I used to be, but I would feel terribly guilty if my family got it from me. If I got it, it's my own fault, right? I'm an idiot. But you know what? If my family got it, that's why I got to be careful, about it, because I got 3 young kids and I get the wife, and we run the business. I don't want the business would shut down if my wife can't function. So it's not good. And so to me, it's not worth it. I'd rather wait till everything's back to normal. Although I don't know if it's ever going to be back to normal, to be honest with you.
I got to fly this week up to Queensland, and on the plane I have to wear the mask at the airport. Wear the mask, but I can take it off to eat and drink and stuff like that. So I might film some of it at the airport.
Yeah.
If I get COVID next week, I'll blame you for.
Yeah. You know what's gonna happen? Yeah. He's mouthing off, Chris, like he's a big mouth, and he's gonna wind up getting COVID after all this. Although I think if you stay in Australia, the chances of you getting COVID are probably very minimal, because they have you guys have such strict protocol there that
it's hard to get in. It's hard to get in even when there is no COVID.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Every time I've come to Australia, I've gotten stopped. And they're like, do you know why you being? I said, I don't know. You stop me every time I come to this country. I said, I'm a criminal. I know. What do you want to know from me?
Well, that's the funny thing. My friend Aaron can't come here from England at the moment. Well, he got denied going to America because he's a criminal, and coming here, well, hasn't been denied yet. I'm thinking, how can you deny someone from England coming here because he was a criminal? This place was built on criminals coming here from England.
That's why they don't want any more. They don't want any more new ones in there. That's why they just figured out how to get you guys all in order. They don't want any new criminals.
No,
well, guys, I appreciate all the well wishes I've gotten from people out there, and a lot of people have sent me some great stuff and have wished me well at the surgery. And I'm going to try to. I'm bringing Tyler with me. He's driving me, so I'll probably have him film before I go into the surgery, when I come out from the surgery, and we'll put it up. And so
can't the doctor give the doctor a GoPro on his head? So when he's looking down, he can just
believe
film
me.
it.
I wish they would allow you to film it. That would be great.
Maybe in case he messes up, he doesn't want any evidence.
That Chris, didn't you ever wonder that? Why don't they film like all surgeries now? They film everything else. You would think they would want that so that they would have documentation in case something does go wrong, right?
Well, even for teaching purposes, you think they would film it just for like in classes and stuff.
I'm shocked that they don't have 24-hour for surveillance in these. Well, maybe they do, and we don't even know about it. But I'm shocked they don't.
Like I said,
security cameras in the parking lot. Why can't they have security cameras in the operating room?
Maybe you don't want to know what's going on in the operating room. You ever watch those shows?
The amount of mistakes that are probably made. Right?
Oh my God, yeah.
Well, you remember I always used to watch that show. There used to be there's a couple of them when I was in America. They show the operations where they're putting hips in and knees, and they're just hammering it in like a mechanic would be hammering on a car.
That's how they do it.
But then they've had those ones where it showed you that there was a show where they had different like things going wrong, where one guy went in to get one leg removed and they took the wrong one.
Oh my God!
The doctor
don't even say that. Luckily, I only have one thyroid gland.
And it was as simple as the doctor put the X-ray up back to front on the thing, so he took the wrong leg. Well, so when he comes out, he's got had to go back and get the other leg.
When I got my shoulder done, I was worried they were going to do the wrong shoulder. Not that it mattered, because they needed both of them. They mark your shoulder and they sign it. They actually sign it.
Dave, I was just going to, I was going to say, what you do, mark it up yourself, Dave? I didn't know that.
They do that. The doctor comes in and he actually signs your arm where he's going to do it. So they know now. Because they probably have had problems.
I was just going to say, the reason they do that is they've learned from past mistakes where they've taken time.
Absolutely.
Dave will be there marking this side. It's this side of the thyroid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, luckily I only have one thyroid. They can't really mess that up too badly. So,
Oh,
if I was only having
Dave.
one lobe removed, I'd be concerned that they took the right lobe out. So that's always.
Well, Dave, if you come out next week and you got some beautiful breast implants and
they left the thyroid. They gave me something else. They gave me the wrong thing. They did. Anyway.
Oh, dear.
All right, we got to wrap this up, guys. Thank you for once again all the support out there, and we will keep you updated on RxMuscle. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. Hit that like button, and as we say every week, remember, guys, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.